Thank you very much, Jim, and thanks for letting me just spend about 5 minutes with you, and then we'll let you get on to enjoy the most important part of wine to water, almost the most important. That's the wine itself, which is going to be at the reception. So I don't want to stand in the way too long. But as Jim said, I'm relatively new to wine to water, and I'm new to Boone. It's great to be here. It's great to actually be in this forum specific to this meeting related to the Walker College of Business. Exactly 33% of our workforce is from this College of Business, so that means 2 people. And then 66% of our workforce is from App State, so 4 people. And so you guys are very important to us in feeding us talent. Because, you know, if you look at the context of what Jim just said, 800 million people lack access to clean water today. It's an enormous number. So, you know, you need really good people to, especially if you're a team of 6, to put a dent into a number like that. And so I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by those kinds of people, the kind of people that are coming out of your university. Over the last 8 years, Wine to Water has done clean water for 400,000 people, and that's a big number. It's not 800 million, but it's 400,000. And so we're pretty excited about that. We worked in 24 countries over those 8 years, and today we're currently working in 12. So you need to do things efficiently and sustainable in a lot of different ways for 6 people to be effective in 12 countries, doing clean water projects for about 85,000 people a year, and that's actually climbing. We expect much more progress, if you will, in the next 3 to 5 years. So I love the presentations. They gave me a lot to think about. I appreciate being here and being a part of them. I come from corporate America. I ran a private, then public company for nearly 9 years. Had a great experience there, but also somewhat painful experience, if you will. From what I've seen, for what's important in corporate America, and that really is the quarterly bottom line many times. I saw bonus systems based nothing other than revenue and profit, and people were rewarded quite handsomely for that. But what about personnel development? What about value? What about customer relationships and those other things? You have to think about those things as you're running a business. So it's putting a lot of CEOs in some pretty precarious positions, because there is absolutely this shift from just being bottom line focused to being holistically focused, as John was talking about during his presentation. So there is a shift that's happening. There is a shift that absolutely needs to happen. So I've left corporate America and I've joined the not-for-profit world, and that's been new to me. I've been in the job for almost a year. And I also see the challenges on the sustainability side as it applies to 501c3s. And what I'm very proud of, I think, at Wine to Water is that the team and the organization, the board of directors, we're really looking at this model differently than raising $1, going overseas, buying a bottle of water and handing that out and calling it a day. That's not good enough. And you can look at the 501c3 model. I'm new to it, so I'm just kind of looking at it objectively, and I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm learning much more than I'm contributing. So I'm taking more than I'm giving, so maybe I'm not sustainable. But we have to do it differently. We absolutely have to look at sustainability very differently in the 501c3 world, as does corporate America and the for-profit world. And the one word, you know, I'll kind of put sustainability spin on things here as it applies to Wine to Water. The thing that we are deeply focused on is community. We truly believe that sustainability happens through the investment in people and relationships. Programs and efficiencies and technologies are byproducts of those very in-depth relationships. So we have worked in a lot of countries. We're working in 12 countries now, but our focus is not to necessarily add more, and we probably will, and some will come and go, so to speak. But we are looking to go deep into those programs. So we're not only looking at sort of the humanitarian effort and the water issues, but how does water affect local economies, social impact to that leadership development and raising up local leaders. And that's the model we are truly focused on. And we are reaching out. this is a great opportunity for me to kind of pitch this. We're reaching out to universities to help us understand and study those models. We would love a university partnership in every one of those international territories and really understand the impact of clean water and WASH programs in general and how it impacts local economies, how business models can help, how that can become sustainable and so forth. But our sustainability model stems itself in relationship, and that's what I think makes Wine to Water very different. And that goes back to really why we love wine so much, because we believe that having a glass of wine and telling some stories is a great way to build a relationship. So we use that as not only a conversation piece, but as a revenue piece as well. About 15% of our income comes from our wine program, but that's a big 85% that comes from our donors as well. So just one more element about that. We look at sustainability the same way across the board. So from the donor side, we want to deeply invest in our donor relationships, whether it be corporate, philanthropic, individual, chapter, grassroots, whatever. We want people to come in and be a part of this community, go to the field with us, understand what's happening out there, and bring it back, and let's have that dialogue of how to make these things better. Because the fact is, way too many people in this world do not have, the thing that we take so for granted, and that's clean water. So thank you for letting me be here to tell you a little bit about Wine to Water. We're on the second floor of Murphy's now, above King Street. Love that location. It's great being downtown, but we're encouraged about getting to know you all better, me personally especially. And if you'd like to go to the field and see it for yourselves and come join us in our community, the door is always open. So thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any questions for David about his practices or challenges or anything like that we have? Yes,
I'm intrigued on how a small nonprofit in the middle of the mountains of North Carolina plans to develop leaders in Africa and Asia and on the ground, the local leadership. How are you guys, what's your approach to tackling that?
Yeah, that's a great question, but that's exactly where we spend our time. So we have ground partners in the 12 countries we operate in now. So in our sustainability model, we don't do a lot of the work ourselves. We actually find locals or organizations that are in the water world or trying to be in the water world, and we build them up through training, through programs, through funding, of course, through bringing volunteers there. We are working with some universities and some other NGO organizations to help in the leadership training programs. So that's essentially where we focus our time, and from that, we ensure that the very quality, the high quality water programs are the byproduct of all that work. So, for instance, in Africa, our ground partner there, we've been partners with them for 7 years now. So they've done water for over 100,000 people. But the way that we do that is we actually hold almost biannual training sessions for local leaders, and we fund these local leaders to come to these training sessions, and they'll last about 2 weeks long, and set these community leaders back into their villages, and then give them the resources to do the wells, do the filtration, do the WASH programs themselves. It's almost a train-the-trainer type of model. And that's how we can, as 6 people, magnify our efforts to the hundreds of thousands. And so we are actively doing that in those 12 countries. Some are obviously further along than others. But here's the thing. Here's why I like this model. It's relationship driven, and it's very different from the world that I left, because maybe it's just a benefit of being in the 501c3 world. And we are afforded the luxury of looking long term. So yes, we want to get people water as fast as possible, but we also are patient enough to do it in a way that we think is right, to get to as many people as possible in the long term. So we are afforded sort of the long-term perspective, if you will, in that way. We don't answer to quarterly earnings calls, so we have that benefit, and I understand that. But having said that, our donor base, people that contribute and support our model, need to know that we're efficient with those dollars and we're being very effective in the field as well. So there's a very delicate balance there that we really try to manage all the time. Hopefully that answers your question. Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
What type of resistance have you met, if any, from private companies or government companies with the issue of privatization of water sources and so forth?
privatization of water sources around the world, and these, not many, to be honest with you. We work in very remote places for the most part. We work where most people don't work, and that's part of our DNA. I'm not Doc Henley, but he's the guy on the slide up here. He's much more bald, a lot more tattoos than I have. Amazing guy, but he really set that philosophy early in the organization when he founded it. And he essentially went to Sudan, the worst place in the world at that time, and said, I'll work here where others won't. And so we try to actually honor that same spirit in the places we go. So we don't run into a lot of situations where they're privatizing water. I mean, we're out in the tribal areas in the field, in the middle of Jones.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.